there was a phenomenon that happened in 2022 where a lot of directors were actually writing the scripts for their own films. So we have Paul Thomas Anderson wrote the script for Licorice Pizza. Jane Campion wrote the script for Power of the Dog. Dennis Villeneuve was part of the process of writing for Dune. Yeah. So we had a lot of directors in the writing process, and this is another one of the writing and directing. Maggie Gyllenhaal wrote it and directed the movie.
Yeah, I think she did a short film in an anthology called Homeland, I believe, that involved her husband. I just learned her husband is Peter Sarsgaard.
It is?
I didn't know that. So she shot a short film with that and then kind of got the ball rolling on her first feature. This is based on a book as well, a source material. And I think it's something that you and I could not make. And that's kind of why I like watching these kinds of movies.
Right. We're going to talk about another movie from 2021 where it's written and directed by the director and the writer. Same person.
Join us. And welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from Goethe Film Reviews.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and thanks again for finding us. Thanks again for watching, and for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Go ahead, hit the like and subscribe. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great options to tell us what to do. Today we're going to talk about one that just got nominated, a couple nominations. And we're going to talk about one, I think they missed one for a category that should have been submitted. We're going to talk about The Lost Daughter.
Perfect, yeah, and it was nominated for Best Lead Actress, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. So
got Best Editing, nominated for Best Editing. Okay,
The Lost Daughter. Leda has arrived in Greece for a much-needed beach vacation, but when she meets the young mother Nina and her family, she begins to confront the pain, struggles, and difficult choices that she made as a young mother.
So I've been on Jessie Buckley's bandwagon ever since the movie Beast. That was kind of a psychological horror movie, Beast, where she attached to a boyfriend. She's kind of a nice, clean student, and she gets to attach to the wild child boyfriend. And it's a kind of a combination mixture of who's feeding off who, right? Who's actually the Beast. A couple of years ago, 2019, it was an independent film. It's a great psychological, kind of a horror movie. But I've been on her bandwagon ever since. And for the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance, both of us are members. I submitted mine a little bit early, and I had to put her in a nomination for Best Supporting Actress as well. Put a lead for Olivia Coleman in this movie. This is definitely an actor's movie.
See, and I still have not put together mine. I got about 24 hours.
You got 24 hours, right? Yeah.
But I became aware of Jessie Buckley from Wild Rose, which is a movie that she absolutely carried. She was the lead performer. She had to sing the song, and I thought to myself, that's going to get some Oscar nominations, and it got nothing, and it kind of disappeared. But I was a big proponent of Wild Rose. She's wonderful in Judy.
That's the car one, right? No, the one in the car. I'm forgetting. Okay.
Oh yeah.
There's
Judy,
a road trip
one.
She was in Judy.
Yeah.
There's a road trip one. It's escaping me there. She was.
But she's fantastic, and it's nice to see her getting some more. I was curious to see if she would get nominated with Olivia Coleman at the Oscars, because usually we tend to see them pick one character. Like, they're both playing the same person. You tend not to see that at the same Oscars, two different variations on the same character. So, excited to see both of them. Again, Colman is like a legacy. She's just going to get nominated for every performance.
But this is really a dynamic performance. This is not just because of her name and something like that.
I think I view it as kind of like, it's not as grandiose as like The Favorite, or I think what she did with The Father. It's a more subdued performance. And that's why I was like, there is a chance it might not, just because of all like the dynamic acting we've got in this year's category. Maggie Gyllenhaal directed from a screenplay she wrote. She actually spoke to the person who had written the source material and was only given credence to work on it because she was a woman. And I agree, this is the kind of movie that I wouldn't have wanted a man to write or a man to direct, because it is not a man's story to tell.
No, it is definitely a messing character. It's very messy, right? And I like those movies that there's no clear, like, is she a good person, bad person? There's just people being persons. I kind of write that way anyways, so that's why I eat it up. It's like she just wants to relax, and there's finding no way to relax. Is it the world messing with her, or she's just so tedious and like, you're messing with me? It's one of those balances.
See, and I was confronting like, is she in the wrong, is she in the right for most of the movie? It wasn't until the scene in the movie theater where, like, I just told you, I just had a situation like this one going to Scream, where like people were like just goofing around in the seats, and I'm like, I'm trying to enjoy the movie. So like that was where I finally realized I'm siding with her in some of her arguments. But like, like not moving at the beach, I was like, I kind of get where she's coming from, but like that's the
I already cemented and established my territory.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
we do not accept foreign invaders.
But then she gets in a restaurant and the fruit is rotten.
Yeah.
or things don't work. So there is some things that she gets equally frustrated.
Yeah, we rarely discuss going on a beach vacation in Greece and then having things go wrong. Usually when that's depicted in movies or depicted in anything, it's usually such a lush, lavish place, and it is, but like we get to see kind of the worst possible set of circumstances for her. And I like that we have a lead character, I say this a lot.
Her name's Lita.
You have to, a lead character, who is, it has to be either likable or interesting. Lita's not likable.
No.
There are parts when I like what she does, but I don't like her. But what's so captivating is that we're peeling back the layers, and I know that there's dark secrets in her past, and we're just kind of like, as we dig through and figure out what happened, we get a sense that we know throughout the whole thing. I was interested in trying to figure it out. Now, where that comes to a fault with me is there was a number of subplots in the film that I was hoping to get resolution to that we never did.
I know, that's you want clarity.
I just want resolution where like I can leave a subplot. I don't need to be finished.
I don't think the ending even gives a resolution. I don't know. Maybe.
Not really.
Not really.
We kind of just come full circle to our opening scene, and get a little, like, enough closure where we get character closure, but not plot closure. And I like having a little bit of both.
So, yeah, and this is why I wish this movie got nominated for Best Editing, because that's a careful balance of when you put the flashbacks in, something like the TV show Lost, where you're like, okay, now we're going to submit what the reasons for her behaviors, and then we're going to go back a little bit. But then you have to balance about holding the scene. There's great scenes with Ed Harris, and you have to kind of let Ed Harris do his thing of just waltzing into her life, and when she's like, "Thank you, now go away."
Yeah, which never say no to Ed Harris. We have to really, we have to say that.
It's kind of sad to see Ed old. We've seen him. He's been in the movie business for so long.
I know. I was surprised because I haven't seen him in a movie in too long for me to remember. I remember a voice performance in Gravity. I haven't watched Westworld, so someone pointed out to me that he's still doing Westworld, and I was like, oh, that's right. He's the cowboy.
Season 1 of Westworld.
And so like I was like, okay, he still is acting, but I just haven't seen him on screen in a while, and I'm like, oh, Ed, I've missed you. I thought he was
overly nice to the point where like, go away here.
Well, I'd never. No, come on and hang out. But what you were saying about the editing choices. The difference between, let's say, to a Lost is Lost utilized sound work to get the editing. Like there was that like wugga sound that would always come when we were jumping around. And I think it was smart to give us Jessie Buckley physically when they give us Olivia Coleman physically, so that we can make that comparison.
And the mannerisms match. The mannerisms, the behaviors. Yep. I don't know. I'm probably Olivia and Jessie sat down and talked about this character. Obviously, they had to get the mannerisms down, because you see like, oh my God, that's Olivia Coleman that's her character. That's her younger.
Yeah,
you
recognize just a little bit more elegant with Olivia Coleman because she's got the age on her. Like because she has the age and the time, she's more elegant in how she begins to kind of go into situations like, no, I think I'll sit here. Like, whereas it takes time, and then she devolves as she gets more angry to her younger self, like the scene inside the movie theater where she talks about cutting off their stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
So I like that we have comparisons, but there is still like character progression from Jessie Buckley to Olivia Coleman. But introducing them both as actresses early on in the film, and also having them both being fairly recognizable, allows us, when we have those editing changes, to understand where we are as viewers. It's a simple thing, but it does mean a lot when you jump back and forth in time like that, is to be able to understand, based on the character we're seeing, where we are and when.
Exactly. That's why I think it should have got something for editing.
That's fair.
And it's very deceiving that it's so smooth of editing that you kind of forget that you have to sit and do the placements.
I think there's elements of pacing issues that maybe hurt it on the editing.
And you need those pacing into establishing, like the scene with Ed Harris, which is a little bit too long. But you need to understand that it's an annoying person. He's doing it because he's a little too long. Yeah.
The whole point of it is that it's frustrating.
Right.
It's headache-inducing, and not his scene so much, but just so many elements of like when she ends up in the toy store, and we feel like this lie that she's been holding on to, this secret she's been keeping on the island, is about to happen. You know,
it physically eats her. Right.
We keep wondering when her deception is going to be learned on the island. Like, when is this little secret she's been holding, this little thing she took, going to be revealed? And I thought when the toy store happened, I was like, oh, it's going to happen now. And then I was like, oh, we're in the market. Oh, it's going to happen now. Like, I kept waiting. When is this realization going to come? And I think that's what the whole film is meant to be: frustrating and painful and
it is
disturbing at times.
And it's basically about a motherhood that probably she didn't want to be a mother, but probably felt that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and this is one of the few movies I've seen that really tackles that element.
Yeah, like, almost like we need to talk about Kevin. This kind of you said it was kind of the same almost, and it's just kind of the same platform.
They do. There's a less shockingness to the reveal.
Yeah.
Like it is a very slow peeling back of leaves as opposed to like smashing into a door. That we need to talk about. Kevin certainly has.
Yeah.
This movie, it takes its time, but like we're tackling something, like the horrors of parenthood from the point of view of the mother. I've seen a lot of the horrors of parenthood from the point of view of the father, with films like David Cronenberg's The Brood, or certain elements of like looking at it from a father's like fear of my children.
Or you usually get it from the kid's point of view, of their point of view of like.
Having a parent who doesn't want them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I've ever seen a movie tackle the motherhood, the frustrations of motherhood in a way that this movie has, and that's something that I have to give credit for, because this is a first-time director on a first feature. And a first-time writer who has captured something that I don't know if I've seen in a movie before in this way.
Olivia Coleman's character does have a self-awareness speech, kind of almost like Forrest Gump does in his movie, like, Is My Son Smart? Because he's now self-aware. But she has almost a confession in her movie that I think seals the deal for her performance, where she's like, why did you keep it? And she goes, well, I am selfish.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of her life. She's battling with it. She understands it. But sometimes she just gives into it. She's selfish.
Yeah, and I think
sometimes when characters reveal who they are, you have to trust them. It's a little bit of honesty.
You have to wonder if she has known this for a while and just saying it in words is finally what
finally saying it out
finally
loud.
Her catharsis.
Yeah, it's almost, you can feel that in the scene. She's almost saying it out loud for the first time ever.
Because she says a lot of things in the movie that can be interpreted as I am selfish, but it's until she actually stops and says, it's kind of like when you're being at a thing and admitting is the first part of recovery. She's going to AA in that moment, and she's admitting that she's an alcoholic.
So it's that self-aware that we all like performing characters, self-aware. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but it's also a mixture of when we do psychology. Is the world messing with you, or are you just looking for something for the world messing with you? Are you looking for it? Because there's a side plot of her with the Will, the character.
Oh, yeah.
And he diverts attention to somebody else, and she gets a little bit jealous, even though there wasn't everything happening.
It was never going to be a thing.
And it'd be a thing, but she almost is like, well, what, now you're attracted to that person. What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the confusing part about it, is that she sees so much of herself in Dakota Johnson as Nina, but she also sees herself at odds with Dakota Johnson as Nina.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's the internal struggle that she's dealing with, is that she doesn't like herself. She doesn't like who she was as a young person. So she doesn't like this other young version of herself. Right. And that's why I really like the scenes that she plays off with Dakota Johnson. I'm a big Dakota Johnson defender. I think that I was more thinking she might get in the race for Best Supporting Actress, just because I think that
it was a very outside chance
between her and Colman. But I do think she's got the 50 Shades of it all that she has to deal with, much in a way that Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart had to deal with Twilight. Is that no matter how good they are right now, they're gonna get kind of compared in that. They need to earn
50 Shades of Grey
out. And it's frustrating because those movies are not good, and she's not good in them. But they were never going to be good. I've read the books for 50 Shades. They weren't going to be good.
You read the book.
I've read the book. I lost a bet. I read all 3 of them, and it was rough. But Dakota Johnson in things like Peanut Butter Falcon, where she really had a chance to showcase what she can do in a role, and then we still get that comparison. So I really liked her in the movie, though. I want to defend that.
So it's very much a heavily feministic point of view. It's a refreshing. I think this movie needed to be an actress than a director to make this movie. I don't think it would work any other way. I think somebody that has experience acting needed to do this movie, because definitely it is an actor's movie. Everybody else gets their scenes. Everybody else gets their moments where they can clearly be defined.
Yeah. And that's probably why we didn't see more nominations from it from a technical side. Is whether or not
I nominated Maggie for writing. I think it's great writing. It's hard to write good dialogue and projective. Now, sometimes,
especially again, unlikable people.
Right? Yes, unlikable people.
I think though, it is an actor's movie because it is all about the performances, and that's where people tend to focus their energy. It's kind of like everyone who comes out of The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Anything else in that movie could be brilliant, and you're just focused on that central performance because it is so large.
And just like that movie, there's no hero. There's no real hero in this, even though Olivia Coleman found the lost daughter. It's just, she's still savaging stuff for herself.
Oh, yeah.
Give me the accolades and give me this. And
that's, again, too, we just saw Spencer get 1 nomination at the Oscars this morning for for Best Lead Actress with Kristen Stewart. And again, that movie has a lot of great elements to it, but if there's one thing that movie's walking away with, it is going to be that central performance. And comparative here, we have Jack Farthing playing Lita's husband, younger husband, who played Spencer. He played the husband in that film as well. So like we get another performance from him where he's playing the husband to a central female gaze, female character.
Yeah. And then another mention I want to talk about, especially for the filmmaking process, when you use the flashbacks for Jessie Buckley, it's very intense camera. There's no spacing. It's really...
There's no sets almost.
It's almost like, are they on a set? Where they? So it's a very full scene, and it occupies. It's almost very claustrophobic the entire time. Jessie Buckley's scenes are claustrophobic, and she's just going to really burst out, right? So there's no quiet. There's no quiet. So there's a lot of really tension whenever you see Jessie Buckley in the movie.
Yeah, there's almost a selfishness on the part of the camera, where it's selfishly focusing on her as well. And I think it was like watching The Hobbit for the first time with that first flashback, because you had to get past it. Like I almost had a headache from that first time we got too.
Well, that's why I was talking mentioning, because when we see Jessie, it's almost like, why are we focusing on?
Yeah, your eyes need to adjust to the 3D of it all.
Like, ooh, yeah.
So that the first time I saw that, I was like, I don't like this. And the second time I was like, okay, I know what we're doing then. Like my mind had to catch with what the idea behind it was. And it took me throughout the entire film until that realization of I am selfish to be like really ideally focused on. You could almost have had them acting against a black screen. And just had it been the two of them in a scene arguing with each other or making love or doing this, like, because the focus is all on the characters in that. And it's almost like when selfish people remember events, they remember what they were doing, but not what else happened.
Right. Yes, and that's fits perfectly.
Yep.
Established. Peter Sarsgaard is married to Maggie Gyllenhaal, and he is in this movie. And I get a chuckle out of it because since she's married to him, Jessie Buckley's character all becomes fascinated with him. She's got gloss over eyes with So I wonder if Maggie's like, well, this is what I do with my husband, kind of a thing.
I always wonder about that when a director directs a spouse in a love scene,
right?
And I'm like, this is part of.
It's almost like Elizabeth Taylor telling Grace Kelly, this is how you infatuate Richard Burton, right?
Yeah. I'm always just like very confused about when that happens, because I get it. Like,
oh, Peter Sarsgaard.
Yeah.
That beard.
And then of course he's like, we can't do this because you're married. And then in reality, of course, he's married to the director. So
yeah,
it's
weird.
It's very odd. It makes me uncomfortable as a person, but not as a film fan.
But I remember there's an incident where they're on the red carpet and somebody asked they're walking down, like, would you ever do a movie together? And Peter goes, yes, and she said no. So I wonder what happened afterwards.
Something changed. Maybe in quarantine when she made that short film, he was the only one around she'd get a hold of, and she was like, fine, all right, we'll keep doing this then. But have they ever done a movie together?
No.
I can't think of one.
I think this is the first time.
Huh.
Yeah. He was really, there's a movie called The Center of the World that he's really good in. So if you want to check that out, maybe critique that one too.
I want to also point out Oliver Jackson-Cohen, who is solid work in the movie. He plays Tony, kind of our like tattooed bad boy character that we don't know how to feel. He does that great scene with her when she's trying to get into her car. It's not even her car, but he's like intimidating her and stuff. Oliver Jackson-Cohen, he's solid in this movie. He doesn't have enough to do where we're going to talk about recognition, because he's kind of there to showcase Lita. But he is fantastic, in this film for what he gets to do. And fans of the Haunting series, he did Bly Manor, he did The Hill House, and of course he was our villain in The Invisible Man. So like he has got some very interesting shades to his performance.
It's kind of hard to remember him from the villain as Invisible Man, because he was the Invisible Man.
Yeah, and he's also, he doesn't fare too well in Bly Manor either. So, but it's nice. He's a good character performer who I think we're going to see more of, and I would like to see him continue to expand. I think this is another good step in the right direction for him, because he doesn't get a lot to do, but he does a lot with what he gets.
Right, and I think this is an actor's movie. You like the performances and everything. But I want to give a shout out, because cinematographer is Helene Holvar. She's from France. She's been doing cinematography for over 30 years. She's good enough that she actually worked with Wim Wenders on a documentary. So she's a very accomplished cinematographer. We're not going to talk very much about cinematography, but it's really shot really well. It's hard to do those exteriors. night scenes and do the whole change flag of claustrophobic scenes. So it is a talent there, and it's probably not going to get those Oscar nomination recognition for talent because acting and story is really well.
Yeah, they overtake, and again, we have the acting branch of the Academy is the largest branch of the Academy.
Yeah.
They are the ones who nominate the actors, so they're going to celebrate a movie about acting. And I think that's where I was like, you always get those kind of actor-driven movies are the ones that get those top-level, accolades. I also wanted to talk about production design, because you can't do a movie set in Greece on a beach vacation and not have some great
Some
production
blue
design.
in it?
Well,
Right,
yeah,
blue in it.
definitely.
Yeah.
But Inbal Weinberg, I probably butchered the name, I apologize, did work on the 2018 Suspiria film, as well as the recent 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And both of those films have tremendous production design.
It was a huge risk for Suspiria because the original one was so with color. And
That was so production design heavy too. Yeah.
And then they do the remake and it's so muted color.
Yep.
That's a risk to do
And
all
so,
the muted. Yeah.
Color when there's color, light when there's light, and again, like Weinberg really showcased some interesting palette here. It looks like a movie set in Greece. I didn't even really remember.
Looks like it's a European film.
Yeah, like when I finished the movie, I was like, what beach was she on? What vacation was that? I was like, it's probably Greece. And like, just because that was how I felt watching the movie. And then I got to look at it. And yes, of course it was. And again, Suspiria 2018, a great Dakota Johnson performance, just throwing that out there. But Weinberg does a great job with elegant production design, and you remember the production design of those films. You take it away in the background, even in scenes where you're focused on the characters. I remember the production design.
It's a little more was simple. Not
Yeah.
like Paul Thomas when you're just going to be busy. It's a little more, let's play with the simple props. And
Yeah, it never overtakes the performances too. And again, maybe that's a choice on Maggie Gyllenhaal to push for the performances, but it isn't overbearing, but it adds. It adds and it accentuates, and it's something you don't even think about the fact. If they were on a set the whole time, you wouldn't even think about the fact they were on a set.
yeah,
That's
so
what-
you're very much on the production side, and I very much wish the technical of editing would get recognized because overall this is a good movie. This is
Yeah, it's a
better
solid
than a
movie.
good movie. This is a great movie.
I think to myself, I think the pacing didn't work as well for me at times.
Sure.
There was elements of it where I was like, okay, I know where we're going. Let's pick up some steam. Elements of that took away from me. I think that the division that we get between Colman, I found her like a frustrating character, but or interesting character to watch, and that's where I think like the film really stood out for me.
Well,
Whereas
she'll give
cases
you a cup
like-
of coffee, and then she'll talk about herself for about half an hour. So just
I've done that before.
Who doesn't want
I've
to?
been on your podcast doing
That's
that.
my pitch to get people on my show. I'll give you a cup of coffee, and you can talk about yourself.
Yeah. So there's little things that kind of took away from the film for me. Overall, like I really wish that the plot threads had at least felt like they were finished.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing is they don't have to be finished.
And
but they have to
I'm
feel
not big
like
on
they're
the
finished.
ending. It's that zone, that drone up high with real clarity. We've seen that before. It's almost, I would like a little bit of recognition. Maybe are the kids not there, or she's just talking to herself?
Yeah, I want to just we closed out the character, but I do think it's always important to close the story. And I think that those two things you don't have to pick one over the other. You can close your story too. There's elements of the way that her story with Nina ends that I wanted to at least see how it went one more scene. I wanted to see 2 more scenes after that. There was ways in which the story with Professor Hardy, Peter Sarsgaard, ends in the flashbacks that I felt we didn't get to see the ending to. We got the ending to her relationship with Joe, Jack Farthing's character. We got all the certain endings to it, but there were things I wanted to see the ending to, including even just her thing with Ed Harris. There was a building kind of a relationship aspect to it that we just didn't see.
He was injecting into her life, and then she kept. Yeah, we wanted to see something that was.
Yeah, give me one scene
You made
closing
dinner for
off
her.
these
Yeah.
plot threads, and that's all I really felt. So for me, I'm positive on the movie, but I do like when it was not nominated for Best Picture. I was like, I get that because I do think there are other films this year that are just more in that quality.
Because it seems a
standard.
little bit smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's nice to see a solid first feature from a solid actress / writer / director now.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised she didn't appear in the cameo.
Yeah. It's not the first time that the Oscars and I are going to disagree.
No.
And we'll continue. So
You got Nightmare Alley. Calm down.
I got Nightmare Alley, right? Yeah, and Licorice Pizza. I
Yep.
got you kind of see those films and like, yeah.
Yep.
So have you seen The Lost Daughter? Or have you think about any other movies we should do from any of the people we mentioned? Yeah.
Any other Oscar films? We covered quite a few. There will be a playlist on the channel of films nominated for an Oscar this year that you can check out that playlist. We've done things like Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza, as we aforementioned there, Power of the Dog. So check out those episodes. You'll see that playlist as well. And yeah, let us know about The Lost Daughter. It's available on Netflix right now, so you don't have to go pretty far to watch it. It's available on Netflix.
Right, yeah.
So let us know down in the comment section below. You can't really tell us your favorite Maggie Gyllenhaal film because it's going to be this one. But let us know, what future films you'd like to
I'm ready to see what she does next.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she's found what she wants to do.
I'm ready to interview her and ask her what she thinks of Marvel movies. No.
I'm going to ask her what happened, what changed about your husband, working with your husband.
There you go. So let us know your thoughts on that. And, like Nick mentioned before, like and subscribe. You can't even know how much that helps a channel like ours continue to grow.
We get so excited when the new subscribers. Right?
Yep, and we love comments, too. Our favorite thing is reading those comments, jotting down our little answers to your answers. It's great to have that conversation going forth. And check out the Patreon down below as well, because we have tiers as low as $1, and down in that section you do get to have some input in the films that we choose. At $5 a month, you get to be on the rotation of people who pick our Patreon selected episodes. People like Brian Eggert, who picked episodes for us in the past, and we're going to keep rotating and choosing those episodes as well. Thank you guys for joining us, and until next time, you can find my film reviews on GoFilmReviews.com.
As a 45-year-old who wishes he could go on vacation by himself, I felt this movie a little bit.
I'll take
I
it.
just want. I lived a rock and roll lifestyle for 20s and 30s. I want a little bit quiet, and then when I see the rockers come on the beach, like,
I look forward to kicking sand in your face.